We are here this evening for night 2 of, night 3, but night 2 of the answers. We have, night 1 was residents posing questions to representatives from Pacific Gas and Electric. This is the second night of their answering sessions, following which we will open to the public for comment and question. And also, we will then bring it to the council for comment and question. As always, I ask that we be respectful. This is a highly charged, no pun intended, issue, and I realize that emotions run high around it. But let's keep our code of civility in mind as we get up and make our comments. I read an interesting article in the San Francisco Chronicle that indicated that PG&E was looking at potential alternatives to installation of smart meters for those who don't want them on their homes, and I thought that was one of the most encouraging things I've read in a long time. And I really hope that we're going to hear about some of that tonight as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to the representatives from PG&E. We have with us, and his first name is Greg, and when he told me his last name, I knew darn well that I was going to butcher it, so I will let him introduce himself. He is the head of PG&E's Smart Meter Program.
Thank you, Mayor Tremaine and City Council members. Thank you. My name is Greg Keralty, and I'm the Vice President of Smart Meter Operations for Pacific Gas and Electric Company, and I've been in that capacity since September of this year, 2010. So I've got a few fellow colleagues with me tonight, Jess Brown and Jana, as well as Marzia Safar from the CPUC. I want to make a couple of comments early on, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Jess Brown. So for the last couple of months, we've been talking with customers at these kinds of meetings, city council meetings, out at answer centers, etc., in an attempt to listen to our customers, understand their concerns, hear what they're saying, and be more responsive to their concerns. Specifically in Fairfax, as you mentioned, we're here tonight for our third meeting to meet with you and address concerns in this open forum. The first meeting was held in August, was a listening session, and the second meeting late in September addressed general smart meter program questions as well as RF-specific topics. And then for tonight's meetings, we're here to answer questions on privacy, cybersecurity, and billing. Now, before we begin the discussion, there's a couple of issues I'd like to just address right up front. Now, a few weeks ago, several media outlets reported that a senior director at PG&E, Bill Devereaux, used a fake name to access an anti-smart meter website. As you know, Bill Devereaux was at this meeting, the prior meeting. He was the senior director overseeing the smart meter program, and I know many of you have seen him before. When we learned of Bill's actions, we immediately suspended Bill, and we started an investigation. Bill subsequently resigned only a day later, and what I wanted to emphasize here tonight is PG&E's values. So what Bill did was in direct contrast to our core values. We don't condone his behavior, and Bill's no longer with PG&E. So I'm here to let you know that I am the person that's in charge of the smart meter operation. Bill worked for me for a couple of months, and we're working on filling Bill's position now. The other item I wanted to talk about is obviously there's some concerns about RF and the potential health effects related to RF. As we have mentioned before, we think the great weight of scientific evidence demonstrates that RF from smart meters is safe. However, we take your concerns seriously. Our challenge is how do we address your concerns and other customers while ensuring them the benefits that smart meter and the smart grid have to offer. Now, as you mentioned, in that article in the San Francisco Chronicle, we did indicate that we're evaluating some options. What I'd like to emphasize is we're in the very early stages. Again, we're attempting to listen to our customers, hear their ideas and suggestions, and see if we can come up with some alternatives that might satisfy all parties. We're in a preliminary stage of review, and that includes weighing any cost of any potential option, talking with the CPUC, and making sure that these options might be economically viable. We'll make this information available in the next couple of months as we develop these options, and we'll communicate those in open forums. At this point, there's not a lot of detail to share on those options, though. So those are the couple of messages I wanted to share right up front. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jess Brown. Jess is our Director of Energy Solutions and Service Group, and he's going to introduce the other speakers and kind of run the panel this evening. So, thank you. Jess?
Thank you, Greg. As Greg mentioned, we're here tonight to discuss your questions on privacy, cybersecurity, and billing that were gathered back in August at the listening session. And I'd like to introduce two people who are here with you at the last meeting. We're here tonight, obviously, Jana, Director of Policy and Planning for PG&E, and Marzia Safar with the California Public Utilities Commission, who's head of the Customer Service and Information Division. And we have the questions that you submitted previously on privacy and cybersecurity, and I will read those questions. One of the feedback we got from the last session is that we really wanted to hear the questions that were proposed to PG&E and then directly answer those questions. So we'll be doing that tonight. And we know that you likely will have more questions, so we'll take those from the audience as well once we've had a chance to go through the questions on cybersecurity and privacy. Before I hand it to Jana, I'll take a few moments to address billing accuracy. As you may be aware, the structure group issued a third-party independent evaluation of our smart meter program. The structure group was commissioned by the California Public Utilities Commission, and under their direction, reviewed our programs. This was a completely independent process initiated again by the PUC to evaluate meter and billing accuracy on behalf of our customers. In the months spent in the evaluation, we provided the structure group with complete and open access to our records so they can perform their assessment. That report found that PG&E smart meters are performing accurately and that all associated software billing systems are consistent with industry standards. And the full detailed report and executive summary are posted on pgne.com. I encourage you, if you've not seen that report, to do that. It's also, I believe, posted at the CPUC websites. We hope these findings will be a step in the direction toward rebuilding customer trust in the meters from a billing accuracy standpoint. Now I'm going to turn over to Jana to talk about privacy and cybersecurity, and when she's finished, we'll take more questions, and I'll serve as a moderator. Jana?
So, first of all, I want to assure everybody that at PG&E we take with utmost seriousness the protection of our customers' data, and specifically the foundation for our privacy policy is informed consent, which means that for us to release your data to third party, we require your affirmative authorization to do so. So in addition, in terms of our physical security of the data, we use a state-of-the-industry methods and testing to assure ourselves that the data is secure within our systems and within our smart meter system as well. So I think we'll just turn right to the questions. There are 6 or 7 questions that came from your group originally, and I think Jess is going to pose those questions, and I'm going to answer.
All right, I'm just going to read them verbatim here. Can PG&E sell my personal energy consumption information, including name, account number, and hourly energy data to third parties?
So PG&E does not sell your information. We're not permitted to do so without your affirmative consent.
Okay. How does PG&E protect my personal information and energy usage data from third parties obtaining it unlawfully or inadvertently?
So the company has very strict controls over who handles your data. For example, call center representative will have password-protected access to data in the course of doing their job. Our billing system analysts, for example, also have similar password-protected access to your customer data. We have strict rules and guidelines that we follow that are established by the Public Utilities Commission. We also have internal policies and procedures for handling customer data. We are not permitted to release your data without your affirmative consent, so we take that very seriously.
The third question is there a legal or regulatory precedent to protect these property rights?
Yes, in fact, there are a number, when we began to look at all the legislation or assemble a list of all the legislation, state constitutional legislation as well as laws, state laws governing large businesses, civil code, CPUC rules and guidelines with handling customer data, disclosure laws, and such that apply to all businesses, not just the utilities. It's a fairly extensive list of laws and procedures that we are under jurisdiction of.
Okay, these next two questions are kind of related, so I'll mention both of them. The first one goes, does PG&E share my personal information and energy usage data with law enforcement or the IRS or state franchise board? And will the police or other governmental body use or have the potential to use PG&E's collected data for their own purposes?
So PG&E doesn't share your personal information without your consent, and the only exception to that is if a law enforcement agency has a court-approved subpoena or other court order requiring us to release that data. There is one minor exception to that, which is if we have credit issues for collection, we do report credit information to credit reporting agencies.
Okay. Can PG&E use the hourly or minute-by-minute smart meter data on in-home energy usage to determine what specific appliances I am using in the home and when? For example, using electricity in particular bedrooms or watching TV or using the internet at night.
So no, PG&E's smart meter really only measure the whole house load, so we only know what your entire premise is using. Now I want to put a little plug in. There are some companies that have devices called Kilowatt and other devices that you can purchase yourself, put in your outlet, plug your big screen TV or whatever you have into it to determine how much your appliances use. So if you are interested in that information, there's stuff available, devices available to do so.
Okay. Is PG&E's entrance to my property to install a smart meter consistent with my property rights?
So PG&E has, as before smart meters, we have always had the ability to come and service our meters on your home, and also to continue to collect information from those meters. So nothing's changed.
Okay, and finally, can homes and smart meters outside the home be targeted by computer hackers or burglars driving by so they can determine when someone is home or also when occupants are not home?
So our systems are protected by state of the industry security protection, so no a burglar walking by wouldn't be able to get that information off of your meter. I did want to mention one other point about that is the meter data that is transmitted is only usage and the badge number. So there's no personally identifiable information. The broadcasts very infrequently. And the systems are designed for full internet protection. So to the extent that there are same protections that are used when you do business on the internet. Oh yeah, I did also want to mention that PG&E has a very extensive privacy policy, and I did bring some copies of it on the back table, so when you're going, you might want to pick that up. But I wanted to take just a few minutes and highlight some of the features of the customer information privacy. It's also on our internet site. So the question we often get is, what information do we collect? And we collect contact information that allows us to communicate with you, including your name, your address, your telephone number, and your email address. We also collect billing information, for example, your payment data, credit history, and social security number. We collect your electric and gas usage data, which comes off your meter regularly. We also gather information if you want to participate in a utility-sponsored program, like an energy efficiency rebate program or a demand response or some specific pricing program. So then we get asked, how do you collect all that information? So when you set up your account with PG&E, we collect your name and your address and your phone number and other things like that. We collect information off of your meter about your usage information. And we also, when you get on our website, we have a relationship with you via the website. By the way, our website is fully secure, and you have to have a password code to get on. And then we also interact with credit agencies to the extent that that's relevant to your account. I just want to make a couple other points. How we use your data. Obviously, it's to create your billing statement. If we have information to provide you on the internet, you'll see your usage data. When you have a smart meter, you'll get hourly information for electric and daily for gas. And then to communicate with you if there are programs that you might find beneficial to you, either pricing programs or energy efficiency or demand response programs. And then again, I just want to reiterate the foundation of PG&E's privacy policy is informed consent. So we do not release your data to a third party without your affirmative consent.
Could you elaborate a little bit on how that informed consent is gathered?
Sure. Let me give you a hypothetical. Occasionally we have a grandson who's concerned about grandma's ability to remember to pay her bills. And so grandma can sign a form or communicate her authorization to us, and we will allow grandson to receive the bill or to receive an additional bill, so he can make sure that grandmother doesn't forget to pay her bill and gets shut off. So that's an example of how we would handle a firm consent. It's typically a written signature on a document, but as we all know, there's a lot of internet sites that are authorizing electronic signatures. We don't currently do this that way, but I'm imagining because a lot of things are done on the internet that we might at some point do it that way.
So that's the extent of the questions on cybersecurity, privacy, and billing. So Mayor, Tremaine, however you'd like to proceed, we're available.
All right, well, why don't we go to the public?